Former President Joe Biden's alarming diagnosis of an aggressive form of prostate cancer. Today, former President Biden posted a picture of himself with former First Lady Jill Biden and a cat. The message, quote, "Cancer touches us all. Like so many of you, Jill and I have learned that we are strongest in the broken places. Thank you for lifting us up with love and support." A statement from Biden's team revealed yesterday that the 82-year-old former president was diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has tragically spread to his bones. His doctors are now reviewing treatment options, which could include chemotherapy or radiation or hormone therapy. Joining us now is Dr. Daniel Petrylak. He's a prostate cancer specialist. Doc, thanks for joining us. How serious is this diagnosis? It sounds awful.
Thank you, Jake, for inviting me to talk about this important men's health issue. So we know that prostate cancer, once it spreads to the bones, to other areas, is incurable. However, it can be controlled for a long period of time, sometimes several years, sometimes as close to 10 years. But it is a controllable but not curable disease.
What are the treatment options for President Biden?
So prostate cancer is stimulated by testosterone, and metastatic prostate cancer is treated by lowering testosterone levels almost to zero. We have pills and injections that can basically interfere with the signal from the brain to the testicle to make testosterone, and also block the binding of testosterone to its receptor, the androgen receptor. And this treatment can result in dramatic declines in PSA. Also, as we saw from the reports, President Biden has difficulty urinating. That obstruction can be relieved by giving the anti-testosterone treatments or the hormonal treatments. It's called androgen deprivation therapy. And also, we can administer chemotherapy early, but that depends upon the patient's condition. Often, frailer patients may not be able to tolerate chemotherapy in that situation. And that drug is a drug called docetaxel, which is given at the initiation of treatment.
Dr. Zeke Emanuel was on the show earlier today, and he said that this is something that Biden probably has had for several years. You agree?
Well, it's very, very difficult to say what actually has gone on without the medical records. But we know that PSA is one of the best tumor markers that's out there, but it's not perfect. And there are patients that I've had in my practice where the PSAs are normal, and we detect the disease by a digital rectal exam. So not only PSA should be used, but a rectal exam should be performed as well to see, as we see in this situation, see that there's a nodule. I've seen patients who've developed explosive disease very, very rapidly, and PSAs have gone from 1 to 1,000 within a year's period of time. So it's certainly possible that he's had this for a longer period of time, but there are other explanations as well for this.
Prostate cancer is a slow-moving kind of cancer, right?
Well, yes and no. There are two types of prostate cancer, the type that you die with and the type that you die from. More than 300,000 men will be diagnosed in the United States with prostate cancer, and more than 35,000 men will die from prostate cancer. And this is the second leading cause of prostate cancer death, or actually cancer death in the United States. So there are really two forms of it. We can, for the Gleason 6, which is the low-grade tumors, we can watch these patients with serial prostate biopsies, MRIs. We can also, but for the more aggressive lesions, we can treat that with radiation therapy, surgery, hormone therapy, chemotherapy. So it's important to determine where the disease is, how aggressive it is, to come up with the proper treatment.
So we don't have any record of President Biden, when president, getting a PSA test, which would indicate, what his PSA levels were. There are, I know it's a disagreement in the medical community about whether or not men over 70 should even have these tests because of so many false positives. You alluded to it being an imperfect test. What do you tell patients? And is it different, for instance, for like a president as opposed to just your average guy on the street, whether or not they should get a PSA test?
Well, that's a great question. And the way I counsel my patients is look at their overall medical condition. If somebody's in great shape, I have some 80-year-olds who are in better shape than some 50-year-olds that I take care of. And you have to look at not only the chronological age, but the physiological age for the patient, because we often see men in their 80s and 70s who are diagnosed just like this. and they potentially could be cured by local treatment. What we need are better markers. Even though PSA is an excellent marker, it's not perfect. And we need better ways of molecularly looking at the cancers to see what their prognosis is. So I recommend screening based upon the patient's overall medical condition. For younger patients, obviously, we need to do that. 45 for a patient with a family history, also for African American history, 50 for the general population. So it's dependent upon how the patient, what their medical condition is.
Let's turn now to Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel. He's a cancer specialist and vice provost for the Global Initiative at the University of Pennsylvania. Zeke, Dr. Emanuel, thank you so much for joining us. So take us through the details. Biden's statement says his prostate cancer is characterized by a Gleason score of 9, grade group 5, with metastasis to the bone. Put that into English for us.
Well, it's a stage 4, so Gleason goes up to scale 10. That's the highest, which means it's the most aggressive cancer when it's a 10. And so he's in the most aggressive category. And more importantly, the metastasis means that the cancer has spread out of the prostate to a bone, where prostate cancer often goes, which also means it's incurable. He will not be cured of it. I should say it's also important to recognize that most people with prostate cancer don't die from the prostate cancer. They die with the prostate cancer. And this is a prostate cancer which, as you noted, is probably treatable with hormonal treatment that blocks testosterone and androgens.
So my impression, and I could be completely wrong, so correct me if so, is that prostate cancer is usually caught pretty early on, and it's rare to be diagnosed with prostate cancer as advanced as his is. Is that right?
That is right. About 7% of people have it diagnosed when it's metastatic.
So how long has this cancer been growing then? And would there have been symptoms before the last couple weeks? Would there be indications in his medical records that have been made public from when he was vice president, candidate, and then president?
It has been growing for years. It didn't just pop up in the last few days or the last few weeks or the last 200 days. Cancer grows over time. Initially, we can't see it, diagnose it, because it's a few thousand, 100,000 cells. It needs to be more than tens of millions of cells to be diagnosable. And that takes time to develop in most cases. Not every case, but in prostate cancer it does, in breast cancer it does, in colon cancer it does. And so there has been cancer there. President Biden and his doctors don't appear to have known about that. So that's what we know. I think that there are really 4 possibilities here. One is if they took a PSA, which I haven't seen, it was low, and some people do get diagnosed with low PSAs. We have that from good clinical trials. And you could have a low PSA and still have cancer. It could be that his doctor, following the United States Preventive Services Task Force, old recommendations in 2018, did not offer to a man over 70, did not offer a PSA screening over 70. It could be that he did offer it because President Biden was president, was going to run for re-election, and had, everyone thought 10 years more of life. And they discussed it and decided not to test for it. And then it could have been tested for, and we just didn't see the result.
So I
think those are the 4 and only 4 possibilities.